Hi everyone, Bandanner here. I hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to this week's WARNO devlog with a little bit of a bonus first. So yesterday they released a mini devlog which didn't seem worth doing a video on for itself, but basically they're presenting a new battlefield, Omen, which is coming soon to the game as part of reinforcement pack number 8. Now, this is a mirror series of maps that they're bringing to the game, and Omen is the first. What they mean is it's symmetrical, near enough. Okay, it's not exactly symmetrical, but it's as close as they're going to get, being the way that Eugen are, because we asked for a long time for them to make these for 1v1s and things like that, and it's taken them a while to be convinced to do it, I think. So, mirror maps explained. The latest new WARNO map is Omen. It's part of a new series of battlefields we internally call mirror maps. This is a new type of map created in direct response to requests from our competitive WARNO community. Mirror maps are perfectly balanced in all aspects, meaning that victory depends squarely on the skill and tactics employed by the player. So most WARNO maps are based on real-life locations, and we took pains to recreate environments to reflect potential historical World War III battle zones. Real terrain is far from being symmetrical or balanced, which was always part of the challenge in creating authentic but fun maps. Especially in ranked or the competitive modes, the quirks and topology of specific maps had to be learned in order to have a shot to win the highest tiers. Mirror maps are completely the opposite approach. In Omen's case, we selected a region west of Fulda called Ober-Omen, which we meticulously recreated that area in-game, roads, buildings, forests, but only half the map. We then flipped that part, creating a mirror half to form a whole battlefield. The result is a symmetrical and fair layout, giving both sides a fair chance of victory while still being historically authentic to a degree. So there you go, you can see it there. Pretty much identical, right? Maybe a few differences in terms of the buildings in Bravo, etc., yada yada yada, but in essence the topology of the map is the same, right? So, symmetry in disguise. Of course, simply duplicating the terrain would be too obvious and dull. That's why we decided to spice things up a little bit further, hence it's not perfectly symmetrical. This is what I was getting at. So, visual elements that don't affect gameplay, such as fields, road aesthetics, and building textures, have been modified to break with any symmetric patterns. We hope that the result feels and looks as realistic as any other WARNO battlefield, specifically made to be played competitively. More mirror maps are in the Eugen workshop. These will be released over time and, depending on your feedback, tweaked and changed accordingly. We can't wait to hear what you think. Okay, so that's the new map anyway, and we've had a look at a few pictures there. Let's move on to this week's devlog, looking at the next division. So this week it is the turn of the 303rd Tankova Divize, which is again one of the Czechoslovak People's Army divisions. So a little bit of the history. Much like its Soviet army overlords, the Czechoslovak People's Army, shortened to CSLA, was composed of divisions with different levels of readiness. Full readiness. These were formations that were close to full combat readiness and ready to deploy from their barracks within hours of receiving the order. The Czechoslovakian armed forces contained 6 of these divisions. 4 from the 1st Armada, or 1st Army, namely the 1st Tankova Divize, the 19th Motostrelka Divize, as well as the 2nd and 20th Motostrelka Divize. I think I'm pronouncing that somewhere near right. There was also one from the 4th Armada, or the 4th Army, the 9th Tankova Divize, plus the independent 7th Artillery Division. Okay. Reduced strength. These were several active divisions that were at a reduced strength. These were kept at 2/3 of their full manpower, and in case of war would only be brought up to calling in reserves. The plan was that this should ideally take no more than 2 days. There were 3 remaining divisions, part of the 4th Army, the 3rd, 15th Motostrelki Divizes, and then the 4th Tankova Divize, as well as the independent 13th and 14th Tankova Divize. And then there were the mobilization divisions. These were several formations at reduced staffing and equipment levels. These were the so-called mobilization divisions, operated by a skeleton crew of maintenance troops who watched over the weapon storage depots. Supposedly, these could be raised in 3 to 4 days depending on the division, but it is likely nobody would believe this feat to be true. The mobilization divisions in the CSLA were the 18th, 20th and 30th Motostrelka Divize and the 16th and 17th Tankova Divize. As you can see, the 303rd Tankova Divize was not listed. How come? Czechoslovakia had plans for 3 additional divisions for wartime service in an exclusive home defense role, but these never materialized. These formations were to be the 60th Motostrelka Divize, the 303rd and the 304th Tankova Divize. The division's cadre would come from training personnel. The rest would be filled up with reservists and conscripts. Equipment would be drawn from obsolete storage, along with a sprinkling of more modern vehicles and weapons taken from military academies. The 303rd Tankova Divize was intended for the defense of the homeland only, and in WARNO, this also means the division will defend important rear army assets, such as heavy AA guns, operating in close conjunction with territorial militia, the Lidové milicie. Not sure I'm pronouncing that right. Someone let me know in the comments. Okay, so what will it look like in the game? Well, logistics, as the 303rd is a rear defensive formation, its logistic base is pretty good. Units include the FOB, the V3S light supply truck, as well as the amphibious BAV 485, a rip-off of the World War II era DUKW, as well as the T815 heavy supply vehicles. Command units include the equally ubiquitous UAZ 469, plus the OT-65VP and the OT-62 R4MT. Infantry is nothing too spectacular, though the 303rd Tankova Division can be seen not only as a reserve division with infantry, but also with plentiful armour. Slots aren't very cheap, but there is a good range of choice. A small core of Motostrelki squads in OT-62As and BVP-1s, including a leader version, as well as the larger Strelki, which are 9-man squads with assault rifles, 2 LMGs, and RPG-7VLs. Next are the Velitel Strelki command squads, being 8-man strong with the Scorpion, the VZ-54P assault rifles, the RPG-75 and smoke grenades. These latter 2 squads can deploy in soft-skin transports, the OT-64C with a BTR-60 turret, or the OT-62B with a hatch-mounted T-21 Taranis recoilless rifle. The division's staple infantry are the reservist Zalozniki in soft-skin OT-64C or OT-62B, and the Velitel Zalozniki command squads. I'm not in any way sure how to pronounce that. They also come in a larger T-21 variant, representing half a platoon, easily fitting into the very spacious 18 seats of a turretless OT-64 and a basic OT-62A. Specifically, the last squad is a 16 strong and equipped with 14 VZ-54P assault rifles, 2 UK VZ-59L LMGs, an RPG-75 and 1 T-21 recoilless rifle. All reservists come with the reservist trait. Makes sense? Oh, there's a little shot of that vehicle. Okay. Assisting the division in securing the rear areas are the Czechoslovakian People's Militia, the Lidové milicie. Milice? I'm not sure. Anyhow, they're an 8-strong security militia with VZ-54P assault rifles, 1 UK VZ-59L LMG, and an RPG-75. Their Velitel LM command variant is 5 strong, armed with Scorpion SMGs and a light T-21 Taraznice RCL. Both units come riding in the V3S trucks with reservists and security traits. Support weapon squads include the Zenisti combat engineers, the TAI military police, Tanková Drustovo tank hunters. They come with the UK VZ 59 7.26. Oh no, hang on. Another squad, is the UK VZ 59 7.2 millimeter HMG and the new BZK VZ 59 82 millimeter recoilless rifle. Man, some of these are a mouthful. Okay, there's a pretty picture of them. So, artillery is pretty decent, but featuring the opposite slot allocation and price compared to the infantry category above. The number of slots is good, but the choices are more limited. Starting with the basic MVZ-52 82mm mortar, followed up by the HVZ-38/72 120mm and the KHVZ-18/47N 152mm howitzers. The former is the Czechoslovakian designation for the Soviet M30s World War II vintage, already featured with Poland and East Germany. The latter is no other than the German World War II SFH-18 150mm gun modified to fire Soviet 152mm rounds. MLRS come in the form of the old RM-VZ-51 130mm and the RM-VZ-70/85 122mm. The latter can be a single battalion of upgraded variant kept in an independent artillery unit. Okay. Tanks. So, an excellent category, especially in the number of slots. In many cases, the 303rd Tanková Divize had to make do with leftovers and obsolete storage equipment. So they're getting a lot of stuff, but it's all garbage. So they get the main tanks, which will include the T-34/85M and the new SD-100. The latter is a locally modified Su-100 tank destroyer from World War II. Czechoslovakia retained several battalions of these original Red Army tanks throughout the entire Cold War. Both units feature the reservist trait. Heavier firepower will come in the form of the T-54B and T-54BK command variant, with the most modern equipment available being the T-72ME2 without smoke, represented with additional veterancy options to highlight the military academy's instructors manning them as crews. The anti-tank units include the PTK VZ-52 85mm and the PTK VZ-53 100mm towed anti-tank guns. The former is the original gun used by the East Germans under the designation PAK K-52 85mm, which was featured in the Rugner Gruppierung. Plus the OT-PTRK Maljukta missile tank destroyer, which is the BRDM-2 Maljukta. Okay. So, recon. Decent with infantry-based recon squads, including the Pruskumniki and Mot Pruskumniki. The first unit comes in either the UAZ 469 Jeeps or the OT-65 armoured cars. The second squad in V3S trucks, the OT-810 Recon half-track or the Mi-4 helicopter. The OT-810 is no other than the World War II German SDKFZ 251 half-track, which the original Czechoslovakian factories kept producing well until the 1950s. So painful it was to be sat in the back of this vehicle, it was commonly nicknamed Hitler's Revenge. The new PRUZLM militia scouts, being just 3-man squads with Scorpion SMGs, RPG-75s and the reservist trait, riding into battle in the UAZ 469 Jeep. Recon vehicles, including the new OT-65 DPP, unarmed but sporting a battlefield radar, and the OT-65A VYDRA, armed with LMG and hatch-mounted T-21 Tarasnice RCL. And the PRUZ T-34/85 acting as a recon tank with a reservist trait, and the OT-810D, the World War II half-track, mounting a BZK VZ-59 recoilless rifle. Anti-air is pretty good with divisional anti-air defenses, including the Terka 30mm Spag, renamed from the PLDVK VZ-53/59. Oh my word. And the PLDVK VZ-53 30mm, its towed variant, as well as the PPLRKS 2M, which is a Strela 2M manpad team. Blimey. Can't you just all adopt a name for these things? Not have weird letters for everything? Honestly, countries. Anyhow, additional heavier units include the PLK CS 57mm and the PLKS 30 130mm AA guns, the latter being the same as added to the Soviet Army with WARNO Nemesis 3 Homefront's 157th Motorstrelka Division. The only SAM unit is the PLRK Krug. So they get a Krug. Okay. Helicopter tab. Pretty mediocre with only a few slots, quickly rising in cost. Only 2 older helicopters can deploy, both being the gunship variants of the Mi-4. These are the Mi-4B rocket with the 32 times 57mm rockets and the Mi-4B rocket 2 with 16 times 130mm rockets. Then there's the air tab, a good category for the 303rd Tankova Divize. One Czechoslovakian Air Force's aircraft was the light L-39, a jet trainer that saw widespread service among the Warsaw Pact nations. This plane will make a plentiful appearance flying top cover over home territory, the L-37ZO and the HE rocket loadouts. Czechoslovakia also operated an improved variant of the L-39ZA, which was able to fire A-to-A missiles, making it a cheap multi-role fighter with bombs and the R-13M missiles. Additional air cover is provided by the MiG-21 MF-AA2, which is a MiG-21 BIS, and the older MiG-21 MA anti-air fighter. Ground support planes are numerous and include the MiG-21 MF, or the MiG-21 BIS, in various rocket, HE, napalm and cluster loadouts, as well as the Su-22 M4 anti-tank. They say the 303rd Tankova Divize is a reservist, defensive-focused division relying on numbers and, in many cases, World War II era vehicles. A handful of rare, more modern units, plus substantial air support, round out this battle group. And there we go. Until next week, when we get a look at the next division. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you all have a great week and a great weekend, and I'll see you all soon.